Going on, everybody? It's your host Moose. It's another Bucking Hangover coming right at you. Gonna cover Bucs and Colts. Go over the Bucs and Lions matchup coming up this Sunday. Of course, another week of Jameis talk because he always gives us a reason to talk. And I've got a special game that I'm gonna surprise MRod with. Stay tuned. Let's hit that intro.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay, fire those cannons.
Oh my.
Hope you're having a great evening. Welcome to the Bucking Hangover. Week 14 of the NFL season coming to an end. I think we're getting to episode 13 of the Bucking Hangover podcast. Welcome if you're a new listener. I'm your host, Moose. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, our favorite time of the show when we bring in MRod. There he is. How's it going?
How's it going, guys? Hey, it's going pretty good. Feeling good. I actually survived playoffs, first round here in our fantasy league that we talked about earlier in the season. We haven't really talked about as much, but in our fantasy league, me and Moose are both in the final four, so we have made it to semifinals. Two different brackets. We're not facing each other yet, so there's no crazy wager between us on the show. If we were playing against each other, we probably would have something going on.
But yeah, it's a possibility in the championship game. I got a tough matchup against the number one seed, and I think you're going against the number two. Both have been pretty dominant this year. Though I like my matchup this week. We're not going to go down the fantasy rabbit hole, of course, but I think both of us have a decent shot against the two top teams. So we might be talking about next week a Moose versus MRod fantasy final for the big trophy in the league.
Yep. So we'll keep you updated on that after next week. We'll let you know how our results were.
Of course, probably listening to us either on YouTube, watching us live, or our pre-recorded videos, or you're listening to us on podcasts. Of course, you can always catch our live shows on our channel on YouTube, which is at Balls, Brews, and Bros. You can search for that. You can also just search for our shows. The Bucking Hangover will pop up, and of course, $10 Sports, our sports gambling show, as well as the Thunderdome Puckcast. We got a new episode dropping this week as the Lightning are back in action and catching up finally with the rest of the league in terms of games played and even points. They're starting to move up the standings, so we want to make sure we're watching that. So again, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just type in the name of the show and you'll be able to find us. And of course,
there are no excuses. There's 4 or 5 different ways to watch.
That's right. No excuses for not listening or watching. Feel free to do either or. So let's get right into the action. Week 14 action for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing kind of a interesting game. You know, we only see the Colts once every 4 years, and we were joking last year how the last time the Colts were in town was the Curtis Painter game. We actually were wrong. The Bucs pulled off the victory, but Curtis Painter almost beat us, which would have continued to prove the theory of the backup quarterbacks being the Bucs' Achilles heel, if you will. So thankfully this time, I guess Jacoby Brissett technically was a backup coming into the season. He's looked pretty good for the most part, taking over for a retired Andrew Luck. But it just wasn't meant to be. Bucs pulling it out, 38-35. I think a game we expected the Buccaneers to have for the most part. I think at the beginning of the season, we're like, well, the Colts could be a tough matchup. But the Colts have been trending downward recently. They've had some injury issues. Marlon Mack actually made it back for this game, kind of a game-time decision for him. Didn't know if he was going to be available. T.Y. Hilton did not play, which may have been a blessing in disguise, even though a few of the Colts receivers were giving our secondary some issues. So what were your thoughts on the game, Mike? I know we were just kind of refreshing the game, watching some highlights together, a few big moments that we were like, oh, man, I forgot about that. What were your thoughts?
On the game, I think, first it looked like it wasn't going to go our way. It looks like Buccaneers definitely were not there, and they just got together. Defense pulled together. Jameis Winston got together somehow, and we ended up winning that game. So it was kind of a shocker, especially going into the fourth quarter. I remember we were down 35-21, and I was like, okay, this is not really Jameis Winston's territory.
Yeah, this is it's not in the
usually.
cards. Usually 35-21. We're like, well, how are they going to break our hearts? We'll probably get close, but we won't tie it up, and they're definitely not take the lead. But somehow, Bucs pulling off the miracle, 38-35, coming back from 14 points in the. I think they might have scored in the third
Wait,
quarter.
wait. And talking about last week,
Yeah.
Moose can officially use the term winning streak
That's
now.
right.
Congratulations.
We're on the streak. I forgot to mention that for the intro. The streak is now official. We're on a 3-game winning streak. I know my thoughts on the game. Again, I think this encompassed the Buccaneer season. Lots of ups and downs. We had our typical Jameis Winston appearance. 3 interceptions. We've updated the board. We're up to 23 on the board, right above my head. Over under is I'm setting it at 27 for the rest of the year. Maybe we'll talk about that at $10 Sports. I have a friendly wager on over under 27 picks for Jameis for the rest of the year. 3 games to go, but strong game for him. Great performance, 23-35, 4 touchdowns plus 1 rushing touchdown on a quarterback sneak, 456 yards, almost hitting the 500-yard mark. But of course, 3 pesky INTs. One of them, I mean, you could debate that. I know it seems like Bruce Arians uses his excuse, and we've even used it sometimes. One of those probably not his fault. The 3rd interception, the 4th quarter, seemed like it bounced off 4 different people before the Colts defender ended up with it. But Jameis had a strong game, had some questionable balls, though, a couple wobbly passes, but some dimes. I mean, some absolutely hit Mike Evans in stride. I think he couldn't believe it so much that he pulled his hamstring, not knowing what to do, that the ball hit him in stride. Get well soon, Mike.
He was probably anticipating a jump or a reach for it or a dive, and he just the ball fell in his hands, and like you said, he
didn't know what to
freaked
do.
out.
It's like, I need to run. I need to keep running at the same speed that I was running at. So of course, Mike Evans going down with a tough injury, for the rest of the year. So that just means the rest of the receiving core has to step up. And we saw that. We'll talk about that and what went well. Rashad Perriman having a strong game. Justin Watson stepping up out of nowhere.
Yeah, and this actually, just go a little sidetrack. Jameis Winston is actually number 2 in yards. He's 7 yards behind Dak Prescott for the passing yards leader. That's a stat that sometimes, I talk about with, some of our friends. Is like, is that really a great stat? Because does that mean you're playing from behind all the time?
It just means you're throwing the ball 60 times a game. I mean, it means you don't have a good running game, which is kind of odd for the Cowboys. But
yeah, but it could also mean you don't have a good defense and you're playing from behind. So you have to throw and score. You can't control the clock and keep the running game and stuff like that going and control. When you're throwing that much, you're not controlling the clock. Let's put it that way. That's what I'm trying to say. And Moose, you got what was that fancy mug that you got there?
Oh, yeah. That's right. I've been sipping on the fancy mug. A gift from the partner there. Balls, Brews, and Bros, the mug. So we have the official mug, and I think you've got one too. Look at that.
I do. And my camera, it
didn't like the activity. Did not like the movement. I'm sure we'll bring it back, but
I think my camera is anti-alcohol, so it's
yeah, there it is. I don't know if it liked the rapid movement. Maybe I think you're coming back now, but yeah, we've got the official Balls, Brews, and Bros mugs. We'll probably launch that brand as football season winds down. We'll probably have like a weekly or bi-weekly kind of catching up on sports and basketball and latest news type of show where we're kind of hang out and drink some beers. Got the Heineken rolling out tonight. My girlfriend brought me this from her parents' house. For some reason, they had a 24 of Heineken. They're like, I think Josh would like that. Here, give him that. So, enjoying that tonight as we celebrate the Buccaneers' victory. So, let's go over some of the game stats. We got our game leaders, as always. Jameis, 30-45, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Godwin leading the way in receiving, 7 for 91. However, Perriman and Justin Watson, surprising game, right behind him. O.J. Howard actually in the 70s, 4 for 73. Perriman with a big conversion. I think it was the 3rd or 4th down. And then Justin Watson had a touchdown and almost 60 yards there. So Mike,
And Mike Evans, one catch,
just the
61
one,
yards
just the
for the
one,
touchdown. That's
just
it.
the one.
That's all he needed. I mean, he went out, but he definitely gave his fantasy owners something to at least put their hats on when he went out.
Yeah, absolutely. Running game, however, continues to be an issue. Leading rusher was Rojo, kind of that average coming down for the season, just 36 yards on 11 attempts. And Shaq Barrett, really the big defensive star, along with Devin White forcing that key fumble at the end of the game to keep the. I guess they ended up getting it back on that weird interception, but kind of stalling a drive for the Colts that eventually the next drive ended up on that missed field goal. But another sack for him. I think he's up to 15 and a half now. Of course, that one tackle for loss, and he had a fairly strong game with some pressure on Jacoby Brissett. So, great game, I would say, statistically at least. I think our
And what happened there with Ryan Griffin coming in? I just noticed he was 2 for 4, 18
yeah, that's
yards.
right. Yeah, Jameis says we know fractured thumb, partially
Oh, wow.
fractured. Shouldn't keep him out. Jameis came back in. I think he took one drive off. Ryan Griffin throwing 4 passes. I think they got one first down, and then that ended up punting. But yeah, no, he came back. Just took the one drive off, just to kind of, I guess, get a shot or get some ice or whatever they do in the medical tent for fractures. I know that he's been limited in practice this week, kind of going with a different schedule, so hopefully it doesn't affect him too much in Detroit. But
And
yeah,
what did
Ryan
you
Griffin
say?
got some action.
Shaq Barrett is now on his sack count.
Yeah, I think he's at 15.
15, nice.
So maybe finishes up with 17 by the end of the year. That's up.
Nah, I'm rooting for 20.
Rooting for 20.
Rooting for 20.
20 would be great if you got another 5 over these next 3 games. I think realistically 17 and a half, maybe, is what I would say. So let's talk about, as we usually do, what went
I
well.
see our cameras are kind of having a little bit of lag and kind of going slow. So we apologize for the technical difficulties here. Not really sure why it's doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but what went well, however, of course, Jameis, big exclamation point. I know we talked about some concerns with the yardage maybe not being a true measure of success, but I don't know. I'll take a win as a Buccaneer fan, and he had some big moments of brilliance, honestly. Really excited for how he played. I know when we get to our next segment about what didn't go so well, of course, Jameis is also on that list, but it's just encouraging to see him control the game and be a game manager and lead us to a 14-point comeback, essentially. 17 unanswered points for the victory. So, Jameis, you're on my what went well list today, as well as Rashad Perriman. We've been waiting what seems like 14 games for him to break out. Had a little bit of a breakout last week, and this week really came into the rescue, especially with Mike being out for the rest of the year. Any thoughts on that, Mike? I know we were really excited when we had Rashad Perriman when he was signed. Then he's been a little bit of a disappointment, like we talked about last week.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, not just what's his name, Rashard Perriman. Also, I believe that what is that guy's name? Justin Watson. Both of them have stepped up once when Mike Evans came down. So that was actually, awesome. That it wasn't just a Godwin show, and it was no second receiver, as we saw Monday night with Carson Wentz. As soon as we have receivers. No other receiver really stepped up, and that was part of the struggle.
Zach Ertz, or I guess we're gonna run with our 4th string running back and 2nd string tight end, which I know your opponent in fantasy was relying on. So thankfully, not too many balls were thrown his way.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, going over. I mean, so I'm just really happy that the defense stepped up in the end when we needed it, and that the receivers stepped up when Mike Evans went down. So that was kind of like the bright spots for me.
Absolutely. I mean, a big bright spot, of course, with Devin White again continuing his defensive dominance, forcing that key fumble. I think Marlon Mack fumbling close to, or if not in the red zone. Big play right there. And then, of course, some big conversions. And we're going to talk about Dare Agumbawale in a moment. He had a key fumble and turnover that could have been a turning point in the game. Thankfully, it was not. But he came up big too. A lot of kind of our third down back and coming out of the backfield, and I think he had 5 or 6 receptions. If I'm looking, 5 receptions, and they were all key. When we were looking at the highlight package as a game refresher, I think they showed all 5 at some point because most of them were third down conversions or big gains. So what went not so great?
Interceptions. That's the first thing I would say.
You'll see that Jameis is also on the not so great list, and 3 interceptions. One of which we'll give him benefit of the doubt. It was deflected, whatnot. It should have been a catch and ended up in the arms of the defensive back. But 2 of them, I don't know. It's funny, especially, and what this really makes me think of is the Carolina game. I swear that Jameis he's either nearsighted or farsighted, but his medium sightedness, he cannot see a linebacker for the life of him. It's like he doesn't think they're there. Like I think he just thinks the game is the front 4 and the back 4, and has no regard for the linebacking core. Who ended up with the interceptions? Which linebacker? Darius Leonard, right? No.
Let's see.
Yeah, it was Darius Leonard with the 2 picks. One of them, of course, a pick 6, a complimentary welcome to Tampa pick 6 that we give our opponents usually.
Yep, Darius Leonard and Malik Hooker.
Yeah, Malik Hooker was the defensive back one near the end of the game, but Darius Leonard with the
2 of them.
2 of them, and they were both very similar. Just Jameis not knowing that the linebacker was there, and he's just kind of airmailed it to him. I always think makes me think of the Luke Kuechly interception as well, where it's like I don't even think a Buccaneer was in the screen. It was just like straight to Luke Kuechly and basically into the end zone. So, Jameis, you're still on my not so great list just because of those interceptions. I want to defend you.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about his nearsighted, whatever sighted he is, that attributes to why I wore this Rick Vaughn Wild Thing jersey today. I don't know if you remember in the movie when Jack Taylor got him a pair of glasses and he was able to finally hit the strike zone. And maybe that's a secret. We just need O.J. Howard or Mike Evans just to give him James Winston a pair of glasses. Maybe you can work the Horace Grant ones, and that guy might never miss a pass again.
Horace Grant be great. Well, they should just invent like a sports visor that actually is prescription. I think that would knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Just a prescription sports visor in front. Oh man, it could be life-changing for him.
Absolutely.
I know we complimented the defense. They made some key plays, but they also struggled a little bit. Secondary looking a little bit clueless on especially that first touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. Who did that go
to? Zach Pascal.
Zach Pascal one for sure, but even the first one, it was like basically a 50-yard touchdown pass to open the game. Who was that to? Marcus Johnson, that's right. It was just a bomb, and we were, again, 5 yards behind on coverage, and Brissett even actually underthrew that ball. Receiver had to turn around and wait for it to catch and then basically fall into the end zone. Brissett didn't have a sharp game, and I think we were fortunate that he didn't, because he could have been slicing and dicing the secondary, which looked average today. I know we've been complimentary the last 2 or 3 games. Really looked average this game. And then another area that struggled was the running game. I hear you coming in and out, Mike. Sorry.
And we had 7 QB hits.
We did.
I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah. So 7 QB hits, a little bit of pressure on Jacoby Brissett. I think we ended up only with the 1 sack, maybe 2 at most. I know Shaq got half a sack. No, they gave him the full sack. They gave Shaq the full sack. I think we lost Mike on the line, so I assume he'll be calling back shortly. But again, moving on to the running game, we really struggled with the running game. Again, I think we were under 60 yards rushing for the game, which was a little bit disappointing, given the attention that we've been trying to give the running game. And I think we got him coming back. Do we have him back? Yeah, I see him. Are we loading him up?
I am back. Can you not hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, excellent. Welcome back. I think we'll take the audio for now, and we'll see if the video loads up. But we're talking about the struggling running game again. The offensive line again looking subpar as usual. Bucs are second in sacks allowed in the league, actually, which is really disappointing. They showed that stat, I think, during the telecast, where I think who was first? Maybe like the Lions or something like that. And the Bucs are second with 40. It was the Cardinals with Kyler Murray having been sacked about 41 times already, and that was before this last game. And then the Bucs were right behind him at 40 sacks. So again, I just don't know what we're doing with the platoon, and I don't know if it just. I know the game has evolved to you're going to depend on 2 to 3 running backs, but I just don't know what to do with that. I want us to focus on Rojo being the guy. Got to push Rojo. I just don't know if Bruce Arians. To me, it was just really strange, right? So we remember last week how Bruce Arians benched Rojo because he missed a blitz coverage or whatnot. Then you have Daria Agumbawale basically carrying the ball, thinking he's like LaShawn McCoy, one-handed, like palming the ball, and then he coughs the ball up in our own half of the field. So I just don't understand what. And then he keeps seeing the field, so either Arians has got it in for Rojo, or he's just trying to teach the youngster a lesson. I just thought it was odd that Dare was in there basically the next series, like no repercussion for not handling the ball correctly and then not protecting the ball. So I didn't understand. Again, I know we're going to talk about it every week, but until we make some moves in the offseason to address tackle, and I don't even know if Alex Kapp is getting the job done. Maybe he was a stretch draft pick. Was he a 4th or 5th rounder? I think he was a 4th rounder this past year or two. I know he's been playing through some injuries, broken arm. Definitely a soldier playing through broken bones, but we need to have better protection and better push for our running game, because we can't. Jameis isn't going to throw for 456 yards every game, and we definitely don't want to depend on him to do that. So the standings, as they stand right now, no change from last week, thankfully. You're able to change the win totals. Bucs getting near to that 500 mark. I didn't think we would see it this year. There were some low points in this year. I think one of the low points for me definitely was that Carolina game. That was brutal, especially seeing where Carolina is now and how dominant they looked in that game in London. But there we are, 6-7, sitting pretty at the top of the division. Second in the division, yeah, nowhere near the top. Saints having a kind of a tough game. That was an amazing game. It was a shame that it was a 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock game. Saints and 49ers going toe-to-toe. And you'll see right there, our NFC leaders, they're back. The San Francisco 49ers now are back as the 1 seed at 11-2, especially with a Seahawks loss. And I think Mike is back, hopefully. There he is. We see him there. If we get some audio going.
Yeah, I'm here. And just.
Did you
Not sure.
Did you call tech support and
Sure,
did they recommend a
It's
computer restart?
very-
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're
Yeah.
talking. We made it to our standings. We're talking about Bucs standing alone in second at 6-7, and then 10-3 for the New Orleans Saints, trapping a
Nice.
tough game against the San Francisco 49ers. That was a game of the week. Might be the game of the year.
Yeah.
I would almost put it over the Baltimore
Yeah.
Ravens San Francisco game. That was toe-to-toe. Let's throw defense out the window. We're going to play some Big 12 football. And San Francisco 49ers came out on top. If you were looking for a Jimmy G signature win, I think we have ourselves a Jimmy G signature win here.
Yeah, I I mean, Saints have had a pretty decent, probably top half of the league at least. Sometimes they've defensive, you know. So I was really impressed. Cisco
Yeah.
was going to be able to keep up. I saw both defenses decided they were going to or going to bye week. I think
Yeah, Mike.
did not think that San Francisco and Jimmy G were going to be able to keep up.
Looks like we're losing you there. I'm sorry. So we'll keep soldiering on here. Uh, so again, San Francisco at 11-2, taking the lead here. Uh, Falcons bringing up the rear 4-9. Wonder what's going to happen to their head coach. The Panthers already firing Ron Rivera. We talked about that a little bit last week, and again, we'll see where stuff falls into place for them. Don't expect a strong finish from them. The team, like they were rallying too much last week against their opponent, they lost as well. Bucs 6-7. Still thinking 9-7 is possible, everybody. That game against the Texans is going to be the one, but hopefully we'll end up at 9-7. So what's coming up next? Bucs travel up to Detroit for a matchup against the Detroit Lions. We don't want to underestimate the Lions coming up on Sunday. Got Galladay, got David Blau playing some interesting football. Their third stringer, I guess, is going to be left in there with Driscoll being put on IR after an injury, and it doesn't seem like Stafford's coming back this year. So Lions kind of playing for draft position, playing for a little bit of pride, maybe some positioning there in the NFC North. Though I don't know if they're going to catch the Bears the way they've been playing with new Mitchell Trubisky, the reformed Mitchell Trubisky, who's playing pretty well. So it should be interesting if you're a Bears fan. Fully expect the Bucs to take care of business in Detroit. Hopefully it's not a letdown game, and we're looking forward to the Texans. That's really going to be the big test for the boys, is what we do against Houston. But we don't want to look ahead to the Texans yet. Let's focus on Detroit. Take care of business against the Lions. If you're better, the spread I think is 3.5 now. I'd take that spread, no problem with the Buccaneers. Especially Jameis is expected to play, with the thumb not really affecting him very much at this point. So Bucs and Lions will have Buc'ing Hangover after that game as well. I don't know. Lions really don't have much going for them. Half their team is on IR. Bo Scarborough's look great, though. They basically signed him off the street, and he's been pretty positive for him. Kenny Galladay, of course, I believe he's leading the league in touchdown receptions, which is amazing. So hopefully he keeps that up. If we can give him one touchdown just for the sake of my fantasy team, I wouldn't be mad. So, if we can work that into the plan, that would be great. So kind of our hot topics for the week. And it's a shame Mike is not here. We might have to delay our game that we had. Kind of was going to surprise him with it. We'll move it to next week because it's still going to be applicable next week. But one of the hot topics that we wanted to debate, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit, is really seems like Bruce Arians is doubling down on Dare. And I mean, I guess it worked. I'm not sure why. Does he maybe have the best hands on the team coming out of the backfield, maybe? And maybe he trusts them in that manner. I just can't get over the fact that he's still in the game after a pretty bad fumble. I mean, if you look at that replay again, I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was just handcuffed and was forced to hold the ball in one hand like he was palming the ball. And, of course, that gets slapped out of his hands in a pretty bad turnover for the Buccaneers, put him in a tough position, right at the onset of the game. I think Mike is hopefully back. There he is.
All right, I think it might be good now. Hopefully.
Okay, great. Yes, you sound better. You don't sound like you're a robot. So that's a positive thing. We're moving on to our hot topics. We talked about the Lions. I don't know if you had any thoughts about our matchup with the Lions. We can certainly go back and kind of get your take on the Lions. Talk a little bit about third-string quarterbacks, and hopefully that we're not going to fall victim to our Or
Well, it's
backup?
backup quarterbacks,
Right.
not third string. So it's specifically second string quarterbacks or quarterbacks who are not quarterbacks on the depth chart, but didn't get forced to be a quarterback. Uh, hence, Cody Pickett, 49ers several years ago,
Right.
who was a special teams player. But yeah, going back that far. But yeah, it's second string quarterbacks. I think third string quarterbacks will be good with. Um, I know the Lions defense have some struggles. They got no offensive line. I think Rojo might have a good breakout game here. If not him, Peyton Barber. I think they'll have more than 30 yards on 11 carries. One of them should hit the 100-yard mark against that offensive line.
That's a
So
bold prediction. A
one
hundred
of
yard,
them.
100-yard rusher for the Buccaneers. Have we had a 100-yard rusher this year? I don't think so.
How do you say that? I don't think
I don't
so.
think we've done it this year.
But I think it is going to be a good game, and I think the Buccaneers should be a game that the Buccaneers control. Defense should be able to put pressure on a third string starter. He's making his second or third career start here, so that should I think it's a game we should win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think the line I was saying is at 3.5, and I think I'd comfortably take the Buccaneers on the spread there at -3.5. So moving on to our hot topics as we get to close our game. I was talking a little bit about doubling down on Dare. Really didn't understand the game plan here to keep him in the game. We both saw that fumble as we were. I watched it live and then watching the highlights again as we were preparing for the show. Just really bad ball protection, no commitment to protecting the football. I was joking that he looked like Shady McCoy, thinking he could palm the ball, and of course he gets the ball slapped out of him. I mean, what are your thoughts on Dare and his role in the offense?
He's a change of pace back. Apologize, just trying to get my headset working here, but I think he's a change of pace back, kind of like the main receiving back that we try to do, run out on third down. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I didn't understand his lack of ball protection. Like you said, he's probably trying to do a Shady McCoy impression. I wonder if, you go back a few years and you ask him, hey, who's your favorite player? He says, Sean McCoy. But yeah, he definitely needs to protect the ball a little bit better. But I understand he's a very good pass catcher. So, I mean, he's a good blocker too. So I think they bring him on third down to go ahead and, either block or catch the pass, because Rojo shows some consistency, and so is Peyton Barber with the whole passing game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm impressed with the commitment to him, because especially with Bruce Arians last week, and I was mentioning before you were able to hop on back, basically benching Rojo for missing a blitz coverage, but then you have a fumble in a key point of the game, and he's out there on the next drive. So for me, that was a little puzzling. I don't know if he was just trying to be hard on Rojo, or if he's just not a Rojo
maybe he just
fan
had
at
higher
all.
expectations for Rojo, lower expectations for Dare.
Yeah, that might be it. So, Mike, I kind of gonna get you off guard a little bit here. I have a fun game. I have a fun game I came up with to close out the game right there, our show. We all know the favorite game, Screw 'em, Marry 'em, or Kill 'em.
Oh,
We've got the Buccaneer version, Sign 'em, Tag 'em, or Dump 'em. And I got four.
oh, I like it.
I got four groups of players for you. I was really excited. I was at work today and I thought about this. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. So sign 'em, tag 'em, or dump 'em. I've got four groups of players that are gonna be free agents coming up in this offseason. Your first group of players: sign 'em, tag 'em, dump 'em. Shaq Barrett, JPP, and Ndamukong Suh.
I am going to go with Dump Sue,
Dump Suh, okay.
Tag Barrett, and sign JPP.
I like that. I think that's doable. So let me write these down. We gotta keep this for the record. Dump Suh, tag Shaq, and sign JPP. Great. Got a second set of players here for you. Kind of maybe on the lesser known. And again, this is all hypothetical. Peyton Barber, DeMar Dotson, Carl Nassib. Can't say dump all three.
Yeah, I understand. I would dump Dotson, sign Barber only because should be pretty, low cost, and tag Nassib. He's got a few sacks this year.
He's been disruptive. I've been actually pretty impressed. I know maybe he doesn't have the big, amazing numbers like Shaq does, but I think he was out for 2 or 3 games injured, but he's been effective in there.
He's good. He's good. He's good off the bench. He's a good B squad player.
So you got group number 3, of course. You got Jameis Winston, JPP, and Brashad Perriman.
Oh, that one's easy. You dump Perriman, sign JPP, tag Winston.
Interesting. I know you were anti-tagging Winston when we were discussing earlier. But here's the fourth one. The fourth and final one, which I think is the big one here. Jameis, Shaq, and Ndamukong Suh.
This one's not too bad. I would say dump Sue, tag Winston, sign Barrett.
I like that. I like that I've subconsciously convinced you that we need to tag Jameis Winston. That actually was the purpose of the game, was to make you realize that the Buccaneers needed to franchise tag Jameis Winston. Thoughts, Mike? Are you? Oh, I think we lost him. I think he couldn't believe. Oh, he's back. I thought we almost lost you there. So, did I convince you that we need to tag Jameis Winston?
Based on that game, given the options, we, keep them short term, give them another season, keep, the defense intact, and keep our players are making the biggest impact. Sign them, keep them on board, and see what Winston can do for us for another year.
So I was looking at the rules, of course, for the franchise tag, and like we were discussing, it's the top 5 cap hits in the league, which I'll actually bring them up here on the second screen. I'll read them off to you. For 2019, just so everyone can take a gander. This is courtesy of Yardbarker, of course. Stafford right now, number 1, of course, at 29.5. Kirk Cousins at 29. Andrew Luck retired, so he's off the list. So third is Tom Brady at 27. Fourth, Aaron Rodgers at 26.5. And fifth is Russell Wilson at 26.3 million. And that's in cap hit. So if you do an average of that, it's about 26.7 million, which I think is a slight overpayment for Winston. So
it's a slight, but that's not, we're paying them this year. It's like $3 million more we're paying them like this year, I believe. I think we're like at 22 or 23 for this season.
I think we're at 20.9. I got the cap.
20.9.
I got the cap calculator here. Jameis is at, where are you, quarterbacks?
Yeah,
20.9, yeah.
20.9. Yeah, so it's a little more than what we're gonna pay him now. Let's say $6 million. It's a lot of money, but in the football terms, it's just a little bit more. There's no better options out there. I think it's more important to keep the players that have been making an impact, and I'd say just give them the tag. But we will see what happens there. But I think he's someone that still needs to prove that he deserves a long-term contract or a big contract. So I think a tag might be something that's beneficial for him. I know some players hate to tag, such as Le'Veon Bell last season. But Le'Veon Bell has proven that he is a factor and he deserves a contract when he was on that last year. So I definitely see why a tag might be a good idea with someone like Jameis Winston.
I think so, and I think knowing that kind of puts his agent probably in an interesting position. I think the franchise tag is the best thing that could happen for him, honestly, in terms, if he's looking for dollars and cents. I just don't think the market's there to pay him $30 million. Definitely not to artificially put him in the top 5 quarterbacks. He certainly has been playing that way. But we'll keep you updated on that as we get closer to the end of the season. Of course, the decision on that probably isn't expected until February of 2020 as we get close to the free agency signing period and after the Super Bowl. And of course, just our last topic, are the Bucs onward to 9-7?
But Moose, I don't know if you can actually bring up something I just sent you on the Skype chat
Sure.
or not. I think that's be kind of like an interesting thing here to share with our viewers. It is comparing Jameis Winston and Peyton Manning through both of their first 5 years of their careers.
Let me
I thought,
got it on the screen here. So if you're watching at home, we got it on the screen. A comparison. Go ahead.
all right, as you can see, their numbers. This was actually kind of surprising when I read the title, Jameis Winston next Peyton Manning. I kind of chuckled, but then when I started looking at the stats, it actually made a little bit of sense. I mean, Peyton Manning, through the first 5 years, his completion percentage was 62%. Jameis Winston, 61.75. So very similar numbers there. Passing yards, Peyton Manning ended with 20,618, and Jameis Winston's projected to end with 19,693, which 3 games left. I mean, he could potentially kind of either surpass them or kind of be on the same number. Passing touchdowns, Peyton Manning was at 138. Jameis Winston was projected to be at 120. Peyton Manning for interceptions, he threw 100 in his first 5 years. Jameis Winston's currently where at like 84, 85. So he could end the season, around that 80, around like close to 90. The rate he's going in is kind of like still another similar number there. Sacks, I mean, Peyton Manning got sacked 108 times. Jameis Winston's at 163.
Yeah, just let you know how important Jeff Saturday was.
Yeah. And then fumbles, Peyton Manning had 27. Jameis Winston currently at about 50. So Peyton Manning definitely did protect the ball a little bit better, but he also got sacked way less. And then what's that last stat there?
Well, it says I guess their record. So Peyton was 42-38, and Jameis is 27-40. I don't know if I like this though, because I don't feel they're only close in completion percentage and yards.
Touchdowns, I think touchdowns are pretty close, and interceptions.
I mean, maybe if he ends up at 120, within 18. I mean, that's almost a full season for some quarterbacks. So
yeah.
I don't know if I buy this necessarily. Yeah, 86.
I put in perspective. I think their numbers are kind of close. I think the only thing that's really big different is really sacks, fumbles, and records.
Yeah, I mean, I think sacks
is pretty close.
Sacks is just a reflection of that offensive line. Still, a big struggle for the Buccaneers, and hopefully we'll be upgrading that somewhat over the off season. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Hopefully we're moving towards 9-7. Got that big Texans game coming up. Don't want to overlook the Lions, but it'll be the Texans game. I think that'll determine our fate if we can get to 9-7. That's been it for episode 13. Mike, we've done something 13 episodes. It's pretty amazing. We've stuck to it. We've almost gotten through the whole season. Really excited that you've been part of our project here. And again, don't forget to follow us on social media. Make sure you watch us on YouTube. And again, listen to us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts as well. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, $10 Sports for Moose, and for MRod at Balls, Brews, and Bros, just like the mug. Balls, Brews, and Bros right there in the mug. Let us know if anyone wants a mug. We can go and see and order one, get some to some of our fans to spread the love for Balls, Brews, and Bros. That's been it for Moose. Any final words, MRod?
Yeah, no, definitely. We can officially use the word winning streak, so we're pretty happy about that. And also, we definitely apologize for the technical difficulties we were having. My router, I'm having a new router actually coming in, so hopefully that will fix some of the issues that we were having and not to deal with this kind of annoying and frustrating, not just for us, but also for the listeners as well. So, you guys have a good rest of the week, and we got the Lions. Hopefully our winning streak continues.
Yes, sir.
And we can go from there, and we will definitely follow you up on mine and Moose's fantasy playoff run, let you know where we ended up.
All right, everybody. It's been the Buc'ing Hangover. It's been Moose and MRod. We'll see you next week after that big, hopefully, Lions win. Go Bucs, beat those Lions. See you later. Take care.
Have a good night.
those cannons.
Oh my.